Of the roughly 20,000 wild lions left on Earth, almost every single one lives in Africa. But it wasn't always this way. Lions didn't belong only to Africa in the past. So, how did the king of the jungle become the king of almost nowhere? To understand why lions vanished from most of the world, we have to start at the beginning, where lions came from. Early big cats, the Panthera lineage, likely evolved in Asia around 10 to 11 million years ago, and over time, some moved into Africa. About 1.8 million years ago, during the Pleistocene epoch, the first true lion-like cats appeared in East Africa. These early lions were a rough draft of the modern lion. Big, muscular predators that probably hunted in groups, though they may not have had the iconic manes yet. From those African roots, lions slowly spread outward. By around 1 million to 800,000 years ago, some bold lions trekked out of Africa into new frontiers. These pioneers crossed into West Asia and Europe, making lions a truly intercontinental species for the first time. Keep in mind, this was the era when Earth was in an ice age cycle. Massive glaciers in the far north, but also vast grasslands connecting continents. Lions took advantage of these land bridges and open habitats. The lions that stayed in Africa continued evolving into the modern lion, Panthera leo, we know today. But those that marched into Eurasia faced new climates and prey, and eventually became the fearsome cave lions. These weren't lions that lived in caves. The name comes from the fossils often found in caves, but they were a distinct northern variety, adapted to the Ice Age cold. By about 500,000 years ago, the split was set. Lions back in Africa and lions in Eurasia were genetically separated into two groups. After roughly that time, there's no evidence of interbreeding between the African and Eurasian lineages. Over the next few 100,000 years, cave lions thrived across Europe and Asia. They were huge. Some of the early cave lions, or Panthera fossilis, were about 25% larger than lions today. As time went on, between 300,000 and 100,000 years ago, these big cats in Eurasia evolved into the somewhat smaller but still impressive Panthera spilea, the classic cave lion of the late Ice Age. By this time, lions had also pressed further east and crossed into North America. How? Thanks to lower sea levels, the Bering Land Bridge occasionally connected Siberia to Alaska, and lions walked right over. Genetic evidence suggests at least one major wave of lion migration into North America. The American lion, or Panthera atrox, appears to have split off from its Eurasian cave lion cousins around 340,000 years ago. Once isolated in the New World, those lions evolved their own quirks, becoming one of the largest cats ever, bigger even than Siberian tigers. Lions had now conquered 4 continents. There were African lions, Eurasian cave lions, and American lions prowling their domains. Fast forward to about 50,000 years ago, the golden age of lions. At this point in prehistory, lions truly spanned the globe. For thousands of years, cave lions reigned over the northern hemisphere's steppes, while their modern lion cousins dominated warmer regions. It was an age when lions ruled almost everywhere, from the African plains to the frozen margins of the Arctic. By this time, lions may have even taken their first steps into South America. A few fossils found in places like Peru and Chile might belong to the American lion, though scientists aren't sure. They truly seemed unstoppable, but this golden age would not last forever. A dramatic shift was coming that would deal lions a blow on multiple continents. Around 20,000 years ago, the last glacial maximum began to wane. Earth's climate started warming, the great ice sheets retreated, and ecosystems everywhere were in flux. This upheaval marked the beginning of the end for lions outside Africa. As the Ice Age ended, between roughly 15,000 and 10,000 years ago, many of the large animals lions relied on began to disappear. In Europe and Northern Asia, cold-loving herbivores like the woolly rhinoceros and giant deer vanished as forests replaced open steppe. The cave lions suddenly found themselves in trouble. Their prey base was crashing, and the habitat was changing under their paws. The result was inevitable. Cave lions went extinct about 14,000 years ago. The last known cave lion fossils in Europe date to around 14.5 to 14,000 years ago, right when most of the Ice Age megafauna was blinking out. We don't find any cave lion remains any later than that in Siberia or Europe, suggesting they died out across their range by that time. One of the most widespread predators on Earth had disappeared from an entire hemisphere. The American lions met a similar fate shortly after. As the climate warmed and humans spread into the Americas, the American lion struggled to survive. By around 12,000 years ago, North America's giant mammals were in freefall, and the big cats that hunted them couldn't hold on. The American lion's last stand appears to have been around 11,000 to 10,000 years ago. The youngest fossils, found in places like the La Brea tar pits, date to roughly 11.3 thousand years ago. After that, nothing. Along with saber-toothed cats and dire wolves, the American lion was gone. Africa, however, was a different story. Lions in Africa had a more stable climate compared to the whiplash changes in the north, and more surviving prey species, so African lions fared better through the end of the Pleistocene. The modern lion, or Panthera leo, made it through the bottleneck of the Ice Age extinctions. But the Ice Age calmed down about 10,000 years ago. Lions didn't just sit around in Africa. They started moving back into old territory. The huge cave lions were long gone. But the modern lions, the one we still know today, began spreading into parts of the Middle East and even southern Europe. Forests had thinned out, grasslands were coming back, and lions saw the chance to expand. For a little while, it looked like they were staging a comeback across Eurasia. Lions didn't get much of a chance to re-establish their empire because a new superpredator was gunning for them: Homo sapiens. Modern humans had spread all over the old world by the Holocene, and we had a complicated relationship with lions: fear, admiration, and a drive to dominate them. In the early Holocene, around 8,000 to 6,000 years ago, there is evidence that lions reappeared in parts of Europe alongside humans. These were not the extinct cave lions, but the same species as modern lions, likely filtering in from Asia Minor. Archaeological remains show lions were present in Mesolithic Spain and Italy, circa 7,000 to 5,000 BC, and even further north and east. Lions apparently lived in what's now Hungary and Ukraine into the Bronze Age, as late as 3000 BC. So for a while, Europe once again had wild lions sharing the landscape with Neolithic farmers and early civilizations. However, as human populations grew and spread, the lion steadily lost ground. The expansion of agriculture and settlements reduced the habitat for large prey and lions, and importantly, humans hunted lions, sometimes to protect livestock or out of fear, and sometimes for sport and status. Nowhere was this more consequential than in the classical civilizations. By the time of the Greek and Roman empires, lions had already disappeared from most of Western Europe, perhaps surviving longest in the Balkans and Greece. Ancient Greeks knew lions. They appear in Herodotus's writings and even in tales like Hercules' Nemean lion. Lions likely persisted in parts of Greece into the first millennium BC, but they were dwindling. By around the 1st century AD, lions were gone from Western Europe and becoming rare even in Eastern Europe. The Roman Empire dealt the final blow to European lions. Romans had an insatiable appetite for exotic wild beasts in their arenas. Thousands of lions were captured from wherever they could be found, primarily North Africa, but also the Middle East and any remaining in Europe, to be used in gladiatorial games and public spectacles. The Colosseum and other arenas staged bloody hunts where lions were pitted against gladiators or other animals. It's hard to quantify how many lions were killed in these events, but historical accounts suggest an astonishing number. One Roman festival under Emperor Titus reportedly slaughtered 5,000 animals in a single day, many of them big cats. This relentless removal of lions from the wild for entertainment, combined with habitat loss, meant wild lions stood little chance in populated regions. By about 100 AD, lions had been extirpated from Europe outside of a few remote pockets. After that, the only lions left on the continent were those in captivity or occasional imports. Small populations of the Asiatic lion, the same species as African lions, hung on in places like Mesopotamia, Iran, and northern India. They even survived in the Caucasus Mountains, between Europe and Asia up until the medieval period. There are records of lions in the Caucasus into the 10th century AD. North Africa too still had its own lions, often called Barbary lions, roaming the Atlas Mountains and Saharan fringes, well into the 19th century. But as human civilization advanced, lions kept retreating. The spread of firearms in the early modern era turned the occasional difficulty of killing a lion into a much easier and often recreational activity. European colonists and local hunters with guns decimated lion populations in North Africa and Southwest Asia. Within the last 150 years, lions were wiped out from North Africa and the Middle East. By the mid-20th century, the only place outside sub-Saharan Africa where lions remained was in India. Today, this small population in western India is the only place outside Africa where wild lions survive. It's incredible to think that an animal that once ranged across 4 continents is now confined to a single reserve of about 1,400 kilometers squared in India and isolated pockets in Africa. In Africa, lions have been pushed out of over 90% of their historic range. They used to roam across virtually the entire continent. Now they are largely limited to parts of sub-Saharan Africa, mostly in protected areas like national parks and hunting reserves. From an estimated 200,000 wild lions in Africa a century ago, only about 20,000 remain today. That's a jaw-dropping decline for the king of beasts. Globally, lions now occupy only 8% of the area they once did. We've gone from a world where lions prowled from London to Los Angeles to a world where outside of Africa, you'd have to search a single Indian forest to see one in the wild. The Asiatic lions of Gir are carefully protected and have actually increased from a low of perhaps a dozen individuals 100 years ago to around 650 today. That is a rare conservation success story, but it's still fragile since all those lions live in one place. Africa's lions, meanwhile, face an uncertain future. Conservationists are working to connect habitats, mitigate conflicts, and crack down on illegal hunting to prevent Africa's remaining lions from following their cousins into oblivion. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.